Hi there, my name's Aaron Short and welcome to my YouTube channel. So a few days ago I posted a comparison video, a very brief one, of the Helix, the Kemper, the Strymon Iridium and a real amp, which was a Victory Kraken, Super Kraken. And I thought I'd just do it as an experiment. So first of all, I know you want to just know what the answers are, so I'm going to tell you right away, and then I'm going to discuss the results in case you're not interested. But basically, A was the amp, B was the Iridium, C was the Helix with a stock cab, and D was the Kemper with a Super Kraken profile by Rabea. So I personally felt the amp was clearly kind of thicker and more organic. Now that amp was just recorded with a microphone, just this microphone. This actually really blew me away because I'm learning a lot as I do these videos. So I just took this very affordable Sennheiser mic and I stuck it in front of the amp. I adjusted the gain on the computer device and I recorded it. And I didn't add any EQ or anything. I also recorded at a very low volume in this apartment. And I thought it sounded amazing. It sounded great. So of course I know how to use a microphone. I know a little bit about recording, but I always assumed that recording an amp at low volume in an apartment would just not be good. But I have to tell you, you need to try it. This mic is excellent for both live and recording. And it really does sound great. I put it slightly off the center of the cone. And you can play around with that. But straight up, I have to say, real amps are not going anywhere, in my opinion. The thing sounds great in the room. You get that immediacy of the speaker. I don't want to say the warmth of the tubes. Who's to say that other things are not warm? But it just sounds really good with no muss, no fuss. The limitations of a real amp is that you have to like everything about it because you can't really change it unless you go in there and start, no one's going to do that, right? I've had several amps in the past where I didn't like one of the channels. And it's nice to have a 3-channel amp, but do you like all 3 channels? That's the challenge. That's why I was interested in the synergy stuff. And that's why I asked Henning to show me. There's a video about that on the channel. I really think that thing sounds good. And I will get a synergy as my amp for sure. It also works well with something like the Helix, the Kemper, because you can use the MIDI switching to change the channels and add the effects and all that kind of stuff. So I have to say the amp was the clear winner. And for me, that's cool because I didn't do anything to it. I just shoved the mic there, recorded it, and people liked it. I think that's great. I think that's good news for tube amps everywhere. Now, of course, tube amps aren't always practical. And sometimes you want to use the modelers and the pedals. And my goodness, there's so many of them now. But the second one I had was the Iridium, which I recently got to review on the channel. I've made an initial thoughts and review. If you want to check that out on the channel, please do. I'll also take this opportunity to say, please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you, I do appreciate it. So the Iridium is cool. Now it actually reminds me a bit of a 3-channel amp in that it's 3 channels and 3 amps and that's it. So for me, it's the same kind of thing. Do you like those 3 channels? So before you go out and buy one, I do think it's a great pedal. In fact, this was the second favorite, I have to say. And I didn't think it would be when I first listened to the recordings, but people really like the sound of this. Now thinking about it, it does sound open and natural. It does sound good. It sounds organic. It's great. It's a small, light pedal that's easily powered, and you can add it to any pedal board. It also uses MIDI. But again, you have to like the clean, the crunch, and the heavy sounds. You have to be able to dial it in with the MIDI. It's not going to show you on a screen what the settings are. You're going to have to go in there and edit it with your hands, which for a 1-channel set scenario is great. But if you've got 3 channels over MIDI, you never quite know where the settings are. So I do think that thing is cool. But remember, with these pedals, we're also talking about IRs and models and listening to a recording of an amp, not the actual amp. So of course, from the recordings I posted, they are all recordings of an amp with a microphone, which is what you hear with these pedals. But when you're actually in the room where I recorded that, I heard the real amp for the first one. So that for me was even better than the recording. So there's something to bear in mind. But Iridium was second favorite. And I do think it sounds really good. But I do think it's not quite aggressive enough on the heavy channel. It needs to be hit with an overdrive pedal. And also, I want you, if you're going to buy one, check some reviews and demos online to make sure you like the sounds of each amp. There's 3 amps. So a bit like with the real amp, there's less chance to tweak it and get lost in it. But there's also less options. So you have to like the sounds that are in there. Now, third, we had the Helix. Now, I did use a stock cab. I didn't think this sounded particularly good. I don't think a lot of people do like stock cabs, to be fair, from what I've read online. I did go back and actually load one of my favorite IRs in there from York Audio, really good IRs, and it sounded much better, I have to say. I haven't posted that anywhere, but it honestly sounds much better. But the Helix does so many other things so well. Like right now, I'm using that to control the amp because it switches the channels, it has the screens, the snapshots, all the effects, the noise gates, the EQs. It's so powerful. So I'm using the Helix and HX effects right now a lot to control other gear with the MIDI and everything. It's awesome. But I think that model was my least favorite. That was the Rev model. And again, this wasn't scientific. Please don't hate on me in the comments below, because this was not scientific. It was just three things that roughly, in the same rough kind of style with the same guitar thrown together just as a test really, but it generated a lot of interest and that was kind of cool. And I do think it's good. I think if anything to learn from this video, it's that it's really cool to record your stuff. If you don't have a way to record, it's pretty easy now. So if you're auditioning two pedals or you're not sure what your rig sounds like, get a DAW, to record it on your computer or something for your phone, and find a way of recording direct with a mic and with a cable, because you can really hear what your gear sounds like. And it's been great for me to do it too. So that was the Helix with the stock cab. A few people liked it the most, but I think it just sounded a bit smaller and thinner than the other ones. Now, the last one was the Kemper. It's actually using a profile of that same amp. So I thought it would do really well. And I thought it sounded good. When I listened to it compared to the amp, I thought it sounded close but brighter, like more high-end somehow. In fact, all of the modelers seem to have more of a spiky high-end than the real thing. I know you can use EQ to correct that and whatever, or tone it down, but I haven't been able to get anything to sound just like an amp yet. I don't know if it's possible to get it to sound exactly the same. I think the real amp and the mic just has a certain quality, especially in the room, but also in the recording. Now, the Kemper to me was really good, but people didn't like it. Now, why was that? If you said you didn't like the D, which was the Kemper, can you put below why? Someone left a comment that it was overly compressed, but the compressor was off on that profile, and then someone else, I don't know. I wonder actually, did the order make a difference? Because the real amp was first, and then by the time you got to the Kemper, you'd heard those other sounds. Did that make it sound different somehow? So do me a favor, listen to D and then A, and then D and then A. If you go between them, are they that different? I don't know, that confused me. But today I sat with the gear, and I thought, okay, so I should be using the real amp with the Helix to control it, with the Iridium in the loop for the amps, and then the Kemper for my practice and my all-in-one. It's a great all-in-one for the size. But it actually made me realize something. The form factor is important, isn't it? And the features. And also the overall tones. Because again, what I gave you was just one example of a driven amp. Today I tried to load up clean sounds, and I couldn't get the Iridium bright enough. It didn't have enough presence, so I had to use external EQ from the Helix. Same with the amp. The clean sound on the amp isn't as good for me as the drive sound. It's not bright enough. I play a Fender Strat. I want a bright, jangly sound like a Fender sound. Didn't have it. Have to use an EQ pedal. The Kemper did have it because I had a Fender profile on slot A, and then different amps in different slots. So actually today, I felt the Kemper, to sit and play in this room, the Kemper was the most natural sounding and the best for the workflow for today. So today, I couldn't get a good clean sound of anything. Sometimes you have days like that, right? But the Kemper just sounded great, and I enjoyed playing it. Didn't sound as good as an amp in the room for me, but I just loved the sound. I just felt inspired, and that's the benchmark for me now, really. The tests, the recordings and things are great, but do you actually enjoy playing what you're playing? So today, I really liked the Kemper, even though a lot of people liked it the least in my test. Go figure. I don't know. So what I take from this really is that, the real amp is great in the room. If you find the right amp for you, it can be just incredible, especially if it's not too big and heavy. It's the same as carrying around a PA speaker, right? The Iridium is great for certain people if you like those sounds, because you can't change the amps in there. Those 3 amps are your 3 amps. You have to like them. The Helix is such a versatile tool that it's hard not to like it. I definitely think it sounds better with IRs. But then again, I didn't try every stock cab. I didn't tweak. The problem with this test, this isn't really a test, because the problem with this test is that there's so many variables. Even in an amp, there's variables. Different tubes, different settings. And then in a modeler, you're never going to try every IR, every amp combination, every EQ. You're just never going to. That's why I'm kind of gravitating towards the thing that just works for me. That's why I'm looking for stuff that just makes me happy when I just play it and don't have to go in. If I have to spend like an hour trying to make something sound how I want it to, that's a lot of time you've given away. And I've been using it. I'm not saying I'm an expert at this stuff. I'm definitely not. But I've been using it for a long time, and so it just makes me even more frustrated when it can't sound how I want it to. But yeah, my Helix is such a great tool and native as well, that it's hard to fault, but it doesn't have the sound for me that the Kemper had today. The Kemper just had a roundness and a warmth to the sound, even though I still want the amp in the room. It's just a great little box. It really is. So that's my thoughts today. It might change tomorrow. There might be another pedal out tomorrow. Who knows? And I'm going to talk about them. Again, this has become quite a long-winded video, but I wanted to really voice what I'm thinking right now. Again, that might change tomorrow. So take from it what you want. Please comment below what your thoughts are. Of course, the best advice is just to get something, be happy with it, and stick with that thing and refine it as much as you can. Don't keep switching around, because you really need to learn these things like an instrument. Stick with them and commit to them. I get that. But I am reviewing stuff. I do have these things here. I wanted to compare them. I will do more comparisons in the future between different gear and things too. Again, I don't think that comparison videos are the be and end all. If anything, I just think they're fun and they're interesting, and it's good to hear stuff recorded, especially your stuff recorded. So again, I urge you to record your tone, your sounds. Not only does it make you hear how you're playing, you also hear your tone. And another thing I've been doing is going on YouTube, look for isolated guitar tracks and compare your sounds to those. Because sometimes you listen to isolated guitar tracks on YouTube, either from live or recordings, and you realize how different they are to yours, and maybe there's some things there you can change. I'll look into that in the future and maybe in a video. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. I had fun. So please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.